Prof G here with another YouTube video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the Summer of Sound sale by Native Instruments. So it's the yearly 50% off sale they traditionally run in the summertime, which is a great time to get updates or upgrades. So I want to talk about some of the differences, some of the instruments that I use all the time, maybe some of the instruments that I don't use that much, help you make a decision on whether you should go for the big update or maybe one of the lower ones. So let's go right to the main sale page and I'll show you the different categories and then we'll get into the software. So the main thing we're going to talk about in this video is Komplete and the different instruments that come with it. We will look at some of these individual instruments that are on sale as well. And I won't be talking about Traktor Pro at all. I don't use that one yet, but maybe it's something I start experimenting with in the future. So let's look at the hardware deals first, and I will chime in a little bit about that. All of my prices are in Canadian, so don't let the prices on these websites fool you. If you're American, they are a lot lower in the United States. So if you're looking to get machine, of course, now wouldn't be a terrible time to pick one up because they do have these bundles with Komplete 12. And they've got a version with Komplete 12 that is just $1,078. So we're talking about just a few $100s more than machine would be if you bought it from the music store, and comes with a ton of stuff. So we'll look at these different versions in a little bit. And then same thing with Komplete Ultimate. So we'll go through these different versions of Komplete and I'll tell you what I think about the instruments that come with it and help you make that decision. We've also got machine micro deals on, so the same thing, Komplete 12 Select and Komplete 12. So they've got quite an affordable version of this whole thing if you wanted to get the micro and Komplete Select. And then for $30 more, you can get the full machine library with Komplete 12 Select compared to this version right here. They've also got some deals on the keyboards, and I use the S61 in the studio, and it's been a great keyboard. I love the lights on it, the feel of the keyboard is good. And then you've got these rotary knobs here, which are fantastic. I love the fact that they aren't hard and fast stops. So if you were to automate something, you could just pick up and it wouldn't jump to that spot and you don't have to worry about that kind of thing. I also teach at a university and we have one of the A49s there, and they're great too. So if you're a machine user, you've never had a keyboard, and you can somehow get in on these Komplete deals at the same time, definitely a great time to take your machine experience up to the next level with all of the stuff in one of the versions of Komplete and a keyboard. They've also got deals on audio interfaces. So if you're thinking of getting more into audio production and you don't have one of the Komplete versions and you're a machine user, great time to pick up that stuff as well. So if we look at the individual software updates that you can get, you've got things like Massive X, and if you don't have Massive X, definitely worth checking it. It's getting better and better all the time. They've got expansions now. I've got some videos and stuff like that. There are some really unique ways of working with sounds in Massive X. And the thing with a lot of these, go download the demo if you're not sure about it. Play around with it. That's what's great. Next, we've got Contact 6. The main things that come with Contact 6 are a lot of under the hood stuff for programmers. That's why some of the new instruments like Farlight and others are able to be as powerful as they are. We can drag our own samples into Farlight now and use it as a granular synthesizer. So it's so much more than just that vocal synth that it seems like on the surface, and that's thanks to Contact 6. And it comes with Analog Dreams, Ethereal Earth, and hybrid keys. And I have an old video I made about a year and a half ago where I was using mostly just these virtual instruments. All three of these are just great instruments, and if you're just paying 50 bucks and you're getting those three instruments and that's all you're getting, then it's totally worth it. I don't use Reactor very much, and it's something that I just need to dig into a little bit more, but I just never have. I'm not sure why. Guitar Rig 5 has been around for quite some time, and I use that all the time. Session Strings Pro 2. I used Session Strings a ton, and I'd find myself using Session Strings, the original one, in a situation where I didn't want to use one of my bigger orchestral libraries. Session Strings Pro 2 takes that definitely to the next level. I love the dry sound of it. It works perfectly in pop productions, and it's not very expensive. So if you're looking at the differences, we see that Komplete 12 Ultimate and Komplete 12 Ultimate Collector's Edition both come with Session Strings Pro 2, So back to the instruments, we've got a few other things I don't use battery for very much. I used to use it a lot when I didn't have Machine, but now I mostly do all of my drum stuff in Machine. And then next we've got the Symphony Series, and this is kind of a big part of these upgrades. And some of you are looking at this and going, is this great? Do I need this? I do find that the Symphony Series, even the full version, is more of a beginner's package. But if you are new to orchestral stuff and you're looking at the price difference, that's where things get a little bit different. Let's say you're trying to upgrade from a Komplete 2 to 12, and you're looking at the difference between Ultimate as $399 Canadian to $649. We're talking about $250 Canadian more, probably $200 more American. So you're talking about a very small amount of money. If this orchestra is part of what's taking you over there, $200, then it's most definitely worth it if you don't have an orchestral library already. The next one on the list is Session Horns Pro, and that one, the original Session Horns, I would try and use every once in a while. Maybe I needed a saxophone, a tenor sax or something like that, or a trumpet or whatever, and I would go to the Session Horns and I try to use it and be like, it wasn't quite working. But you get to Session Horns Pro and a lot of those sounds are a lot better. So Session Horns Pro, in my opinion, definitely worth it if you're needing to do some brass stuff. And then we can go look at the bundles a little bit more here. So we've got Komplete 12 Select, Komplete 12, Komplete 12 Ultimate, and then the Ultimate Collector's Edition. The question you have to ask yourself is, do you need that content? So what are the main differences between Komplete 12 Ultimate Collector's Edition and Komplete 12 Ultimate? The main one you've got here is the expansions for Machine and for battery. And in my opinion, the expansions are best if you have Machine. You can use the expansions in battery, it's just a little bit clunky. So you're looking at it, you're going, okay, between these two, do I really need all of these expansions? A lot of people probably don't. I'll tell you ones that I love that make it worth it to me. Prismatic Bliss is amazing. Lone Forest is a really interesting one and has some sort of Boards of Canada type stuff. So if you're into that kind of electronic music, you might be into that one. Sierra Grove is a great one. Vintage Heat is fun. It's got some old school stuff in there. Hexagon Highway, definitely Boards of Canada heavy. Really cool groups that aren't traditional sounds. Amplified Funk just has some really fun, funky stuff that is quite different from a lot of the other expansions. Meteoric Rise is a great sort of pop expansion, and Infamous Flow, some great hip hop sounds in there. And then Polar Flare, Midnight Sunset, those ones also have just some interesting kits. So you have a ton of stuff in those expansions for a few $100s more. But you're going to just scratch the surface of these expansions for a very long time. I mean, there's so much content in there. So that's the expansions for the Machine users and the battery users. So if you're not a Machine user, those expansions might not be as important to you. But the other huge difference, of course, as I said, is the Symphony Series. You get just the essentials with Komplete 12 Ultimate, and you get the full Symphony Series with Komplete 12 Ultimate Collector's Edition. So orchestra and expansions. Do you need those? Well, if you don't, then don't worry about the collector's edition. So now let's look at the differences between 12 and Ultimate really quickly. So far, everything's the same. You don't have Razor. Now, Razor is an interesting one. So you can actually use Razor as a vocoder, and maybe I need to do a video on how to set that up. We've got some other things like Scanner XT and Flesh, which I don't use too much. We don't have Alicia's keys. I love Alicia's keys. I use that piano all the time. But you have a ton of other pianos in that Komplete 12 version, so maybe you don't need that. We don't have as many Abbey Road drummer versions in Komplete, but you do have a couple of them. So maybe you can get away with that. You have an old sounding drum set and you have the new sounding drum set. This George Duke Soul Treasures, I need to make a video on that one for Machine users because there's so many beautiful phrases in there, and that kind of stuff would work perfectly with Machine because you could use them, get the timing right, and then drag them out and chop them up and now use them as samples in Machine. So some electric guitar, acoustic guitar stuff in here. The strummed acoustic too is actually really good. I never use it. My students use it sometimes, the students who aren't guitarists, and I am often quite amazed at how good this strummed acoustic 2 actually sounds. It's got a lot more basses that you don't get in just the regular version of Komplete 12, and I do use these basses a fair bit too. They're great. We don't get any of the symphony stuff, and then any of these kind of cinematic ones that in Komplete 12. And I gotta say, these old ones like Evolve and Rise and Hit, Action Strikes, Damage, those ones are classics. They've been around forever, but I love them. And nobody walks away from seeing Damage without being like, yeah, okay, that was pretty cool. And then you've got some more effects as you go up the different versions. So now what I'll do is just go open up Machine, and we'll just look at a couple of those things I was talking about. So here's an example of Damage. I always like to mash my fists against the keyboard. Right, that's it. So now you're a composer. It's pretty amazing. All of these Scarby vintage keys, vintage organs, those are just fantastic instruments. There's Alicia's keys, great piano, the basses, and then Session Strings Pro. Let me just show you an example of that one. So if we go to the key switches, so those are the basic key switches that come with Session Strings Pro or Session Strings Pro 2, but it's got a really nice way of loading in other articulations, which you can't do with the other orchestral libraries in here. So if I click on the little drop-down menu, then I can choose portamento. It's going to be really hard for you to show restraint and not use this all the time, but it goes like this. So if you have two notes that are connected, it's going to do a transition sample between those two notes that were actually recorded by the cello players. So watch this again. If I just go between two notes, and if I play it connected, you hear that slide up, right? Adds a lot of realism to your string productions for sure. Just don't use it too much. I use this library all the time, Session Strings Pro 2. So totally worth its weight right there. So Session Horns Pro. So this one works similarly to the Session Strings libraries. And if I switch the different articulations down here, we've got vibrato, no vibrato, forte, piano, crescendo. So it starts forte, goes piano, and then crescendos over 2 beats. So it's going to be specific to the tempo of your project, which is very useful. A growl, staccato. Session Horns Pro, definitely worth having. So hopefully this helps you make a decision on the upgrade or the update that's right for you. It's not an easy decision, but thanks for watching and thanks for all the support, and we'll see you in the next video.